Every unfinished project lets you keep believing in the version of yourself who could have made it brilliant.
You could change, you should change, you won't change. That's called accumulated disaster. You gotta be smarter than that.
Maybe you've noticed this in yourself. You save posts to folders you never open again. You write down ideas that felt urgent in the moment, and 3 weeks later, you don't even remember why. You tell yourself, I could do this, I should do this, and then you don't. And the cycle starts over. You're not lazy. You probably spend more time living inside your ideas than most people ever spend paying attention to theirs. But thinking and finishing, those are two very different things. And somewhere between the two, something happens. So, let's actually get into it. To understand why this keeps happening, you need to understand something about how your brain actually works. Your brain is one of the most powerful things in the known universe, but it has one rule it never breaks: conserve energy, because thinking, real thinking, is expensive. Every decision you make, every new thought, every moment of genuine focus burns through resources, and your brain is constantly looking for ways to spend less. So here's what it does. Every time you repeat something, a route you drive, a habit you have, a way you start your mornings, your brain starts automating it. It builds a kind of shortcut, and the more you repeat it, the faster and cheaper that shortcut becomes. Scientists call this process myelination. The brain literally wraps a protective layer around the neural pathways you use most, making them faster and more efficient over time. The result? Up to 50% of what you do every day isn't really a decision anymore. It's automatic. Your brain is running in what you could call energy-saving mode, handling half your day without you even noticing. And honestly, your brain is simply trying to make life easier for you. It frees up mental capacity for things that actually need your attention. But here's where it gets complicated. When something is new, a new project, a new skill, a new creative direction, your brain can't automate it yet. There's no shortcut. It requires real effort, real energy, real focus. And because your brain is wired to protect its resources, unfamiliar things naturally feel harder than familiar ones. That resistance you feel when you sit down to actually work on something, that's just your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. So why do new ideas still feel so exciting if the brain prefers the familiar? Because of dopamine. Dopamine is often called the reward chemical, but that's not quite accurate. It's more like an anticipation chemical. Your brain releases dopamine not when you get something, but when it detects the possibility of something. Novelty, surprise, potential. These are dopamine triggers. So the moment a new idea enters your mind, a new project, a new creative concept, your brain lights up. And instantly, it imagines what could happen. That rush of excitement, that sudden clarity, that feeling of, this is the one. That's dopamine talking. And it feels good. Good enough that you start chasing it. Good enough that the moment that feeling fades, which it always does, usually somewhere around the point where the work gets hard, a new idea starts to look very attractive. Because a new idea always comes with a full dopamine hit attached. And the unfinished one in front of you, that one already cost you something. It already showed you some of its difficulty. The shortcut isn't built yet, the energy-saving mode isn't available, and the dopamine has settled. So your brain does what it was built to do. It points you toward the thing that feels better. And you follow. Every time. Let's look at this from a different angle. New ideas feel exciting. We just established why. But there's another side to this that I notice in my own work. I paint. Oil painting is already a slow process by nature. Layers need to dry, you can't always force it. But even outside of that, I've caught myself doing something. I make a sketch, get excited about an idea, start working on it, and then, before it's anywhere near finished, the next idea shows up. And suddenly, that one feels more exciting than the one in front of me. And I give in. A new idea is still untouched, still perfect. It hasn't had to meet my current skill level yet, hasn't had to face my current limitations. The finished painting, on the other side, it shows exactly where I am right now, not where I imagine I could be. That's uncomfortable, and a new idea is a very convenient way to avoid that discomfort. And a new idea becomes a refuge, a place where the distance between that vision and what your hands can currently deliver doesn't exist. But here's what that refuge costs you. Every time you leave a project at 80% and chase the next idea, you rob yourself of the one thing that actually closes the gap. Finishing, letting it exist, imperfect as it is, and moving on. And this is where it gets a little uncomfortable, because avoiding the finish line doesn't always look like procrastination. Sometimes it looks like research, like filling a mood board, like telling yourself you just need a little more inspiration before you can really start. It feels creative, it even feels necessary. But at some point, collecting stops being preparation and starts being protection. Protection from the moment where the idea leaves your head and enters the real world. People can't see it, judge it, and maybe not connect with it at all. That fear doesn't announce itself. It just keeps you busy with things that feel productive, but don't move anything forward. Cheap dopamine dressed up as creative work. Now, to be fair, there's a difference between hiding and resting. Good things take time. Sometimes you need to step away, create a little space, let an idea breathe before you come back to it. That's part of the process. Just don't deceive yourself. And then there's the comparison trap. You scroll through someone else's finished work, polished, confident, complete, and you measure it against your unfinished idea. But here's what you're actually looking at. You're not seeing one person's work. You're seeing the highlight reel of hundreds of creators at once. Their best pieces, their most polished moments. Carefully selected, carefully presented. And you're comparing all of that against your one unfinished idea that still only exists in your head. On top of that, social media only shows you what performed, what got attention, what looked good enough to share. Nobody posts the sketch they abandoned. Nobody shows the project they restarted 3 times. You consume an endless stream of finished, polished output, and walk away feeling like you're the only one who isn't producing anything. But you're not comparing fairly. You're comparing their reality to your potential. And that gap will always feel enormous because you're measuring the wrong things. Remember that loop from the beginning. Could, should, won't. That's a pattern, and patterns compound, but it works both ways. Could, should, will. The same logic, the same compounding, just in a different direction. Sometimes it helps to zoom out, to get clear on where small, daily, consistent actions actually lead you in the long run. Here's something most people don't want to think about. Every day you choose to consume instead of create, to collect instead of finish, to wait instead of ship. That's not a neutral decision. There's no such thing as standing still. Every action you take or don't take is moving you somewhere. A few errors in judgment, repeated every day, it accumulates, slowly, quietly, in a direction you might not notice until you're already far down the road.
And if you make that kind of an error in judgment every day for 6 years, I'm telling you, it'll accumulate into disaster.
What he's describing isn't dramatic. It's not one big failure or one big breakthrough. It's the small decisions, the ones that feel insignificant in the moment, the ones you tell yourself don't really matter. But they do. They compound. And this works in your favor just as much as against you. The same logic that turns small errors into disaster turns small disciplines into something extraordinary.
And if you'll just start the process of change, could, should, and will, you can start this whole process. And if you will, then put it into action. The miracle belongs to you.
Could, should, will. The same compounding, just in a different direction. That's the miracle he was talking about. Your creativity, your perspective, your ideas. Nobody can replicate that. Nobody can take it from you. But it only becomes something real if you actually do something with it. The question is what you're doing with it every single day. This is the part most videos skip, because it's easy to explain why you're stuck. It's harder to tell you something that actually moves you forward. So here's a step-by-step plan for turning the idea in your head into something real. 1. Give your inspiration a container. Collect ideas and references, but only for a specific project, and only until a set point. Then, close the tab and start. 2. Choose before it feels perfect. Don't wait for the idea that feels undeniably right. Pick one, make it yours. Add your perspective, your angle, your twist, and through the doing, it becomes something original. 3. Define what finished means. Not perfect, not polished, just what is the smallest complete version of this? Set that as your target. 4. Expect the ugly phase. Every project has a moment where it stops feeling exciting and starts feeling frustrating. That's just the process. Push through it. 5. Show up before you feel ready. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. You will never feel perfectly ready, so start anyway. The feeling catches up. There's one last thing I want to leave you with. Everything we just talked about in this video, the energy-saving mode, the dopamine hits, the patterns that compound, none of that is fixed. Your brain is not a finished product. It's constantly changing, constantly adapting, and rewiring itself based on what you repeatedly do. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, and what it means for you is simple. Every time you push through the resistance and finish something, you're building a version of yourself that finishes things. You're laying down new pathways, new shortcuts, a new default. We barely scratched the surface on this, and I'm planning a whole video on neuroplasticity and how you can deliberately use it to your advantage as a creative person. Because once you understand how that actually works, it changes everything. So if that sounds interesting, make sure you're following along so you don't miss it. And before you click on the next video, whether it's for motivation, inspiration, or something similar, do yourself a favor. It might be worth rewinding for a second. Then close YouTube, open your project, and bring it from start to finish. I also wanted to say a quick thank you. I didn't expect so much positive and supportive feedback on the last video. As someone who's just starting out, that really meant a lot and gave me the motivation to keep going. If you enjoyed this video and want to be one of the early subs on this channel, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe. I have so many ideas planned for what's coming next, but you know, one step at a time. Bye bye, and don't forget to always bet on yourself.